Brett Yormark made a huge mistake. He is not standing up for the Big 12.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I'm covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by Monarch Money. It's not just a budgeting app. It's an all-in-one financial command center. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege to get 50% off your first year. I'll tell you more about them later on in the show. We'll also talk about TCU baseball moving on in the Big 12 tournament to the semifinals, where they will take on Kansas today. But we start with news in the college football playoff world. Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips, but I want to focus more on Brett Yormark because he is a Big 12 commissioner and this is a TCU show. They let down their teams. They let down their conference. They let down their programs today. The college football playoff is being restructured. Starting this season, they will go to a straight seeding format. What does that mean? Well, instead of last year, where the highest ranked conference champions, the top 4 ranked conference champions got a bye, got the opportunity to stay at home the first week in the 12-team playoff. They will not get a bye anymore. The committee will just rank the teams 1 through 12, and they'll approach it that way. Why is that bad for the Big 12? Why is it bad for the ACC? Well, the committee's made it pretty clear over the last few years that they don't respect those leagues as much as the Big 10 and the SEC. Because if you use this format last season, the top 4 teams would have been number 1 Oregon, number 2 Georgia, number 3 Texas, number 4 Penn State. 2 Big 10 teams, 2 SEC teams. Arizona State, which got a bye, they would not have. Boise State, which got a bye, they would not have. Arizona State got hot at the end of the year. They won the Big 12 championship. That gave them the automatic qualifier. And they would have been the last team in this scenario, in the straight seeding scenario, but instead they got a bye week. And they took on Texas on a neutral field. And they should have won that game. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. But they played a heck of a ball game. And they were right there playing with Texas, who was probably the second best team in the country last season. I know what a lot of you will do when you hear this, especially if you're an SEC fan. TCU, unfortunately, probably holds the biggest example of the difference between the SEC and other leagues by losing to Georgia 65-7 in the national championship game a few years ago. But since that ball game, over the last 2 seasons, an SEC team has not played the national championship game. A Big 10 team has won the title. That TCU team that I spoke about earlier, they also beat Michigan on a neutral field, fair and square, in a ball game that nobody gave them a chance in. The gap between teams is closing. I think that Georgia team that won by the absurd margin might be the last one we see for a long time that has that kind of talent level top to bottom. Because of the transfer portal, because of NIL, because of everything that's changing within the world of college sports that doesn't allow you to stack your roster like they did for years. There's more parity in college sports than ever before. But even beyond that, Brett Yormark's job is to protect his conference, to look out what's best for them, right? What's best for the Big 12 is getting an automatic qualifier and getting a bye in the playoff because the committee is not giving them the respect they deserve. This quote from Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, absolutely kills me. And this is from a story on ESPN written by Heather Dinich. We all have a responsibility to serve our constituents while also being mindful as to what's best for college football. Today's decision was done in the best interest of the sport. It may not always benefit the ACC, but it was the right decision, and that's a responsibility I take very seriously. What are you talking about? Your job is to do what's best for the ACC. Your job is to do what's best for your constituents. That's what you get paid to do. You are not there to look out for the future of college football as a whole. Now, this was a unanimous vote, excuse me. So you might say, well, it was pointless anyway. It was going to pass either way. Yes. But at least you could have voted no and stood on something. At least you could have pushed back a little bit and said, you know what? I don't think this current system works for us, or the system that we're moving towards. I don't think it's going to work for us. And I have an obligation to do what's best for my conference. Because you know who always does what's best for their conference? You know who always looks out for number one? The SEC and the Big Ten. You think Greg Sankey cares about the rest of these leagues? When he's poaching Texas and Oklahoma, you think he's thinking about college football as a whole? When the Big Ten is destroying the Pac 12, do you think they're looking out for the best interest of the sport? And yes, when the Big 12 took Colorado and Arizona State, were they looking out for the best interest of the sport? No, but that's not Brett Yormark's job. His job is to do what's best for the Big 12, and that's what he did in that scenario, and that's what he failed to do here. Arizona State's resume was not overly impressive last season. But you know what? They went toe-to-toe with Texas. They proved on the field that day that they could hang. If they could have stopped that fourth down, they would have won that ball game. Those were not two teams that were stratospheres apart. And to act that way is ridiculous. So at least push back on the system and say, you know what? I don't think the committee understands our league. I don't think they respect it. And we need to keep this automatic qualifier. We need to keep the unbalanced seeding to do what's best for us. Now, in that world, does that mean a Big 12 team or an ACC team gets some home games? Maybe. But last year, that would not have been the case. Arizona State would have gone on the road. And they would not have gotten a bye. This is not what is best for the Big 12. And that's what Brett Yormark is supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be looking out for the league. We're eventually moving to a world where expansion is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be 16, 24, 32. There will be more teams in the playoff. Revenue sharing is about to be something that is real in college football. And we are probably going down a path where there's even more parity in the sport. So cash in on that now. Because until the committee shows you that they're willing to give the Big 12 and the ACC the respect they deserve, don't go along with these ideas. Stop just letting these two conferences push you around and tell you what to do. I like Brett Yormark. I like what he's done. I've told you before. I thought he was the perfect follow-up to Bob Bowlesby because Bob Bowlesby did not have the vision to see what was coming in college sports. He was always playing defense. And Yormark has come in and he's turning over every rock and trying to find revenue, trying to close the gap, trying to do creative things. Are all the ideas working? No, but he's giving it a shot. He's being innovative. But I think in this instance, he failed. Would it have passed anyway? Probably. But at least show your displeasure about it. At least stand up for the schools that you represent and you say, you know what? This doesn't work for us. So I can't vote yes for it. Straight seeding in the college football playoff. Last year, Oregon would have been number one. Oregon got knocked out early by a Big Ten team, I know, but still. Georgia would have got a bye. Georgia got beat by Notre Dame. Well, Georgia wasn't healthy. Okay, that's football. Texas got taken down by Ohio State. It's not like it was 5 or 10 years ago, guys. It's closer than it's ever been. On the field. Show that. Don't allow these leagues to just push you around. It's infuriating. When we come back, TCU moves on in the Big 12 tournament. We'll talk about the baseball team next year on Locked on Horned Frogs, your team every day. All right, before we do that, one of our great sponsors, Monarch Money. I love Monarch Money. They make managing your money super easy. You open up your bank account the first of the month and you're like, wait, what the heck happened? That's happened to me too many times. Monarch Money can help you with those recurring payments, those fees, that spending that you're doing that you don't want to. But it's also an all-in-one wealth management center. You can track your investments. It's a complete financial command center. All your spending's in one place so you can stop managing your money and start building wealth. You can also put all your accounts in one place with your spouse or your partner, all in one convenience. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for 50% off your first year. Monarch Money, take control of your finances. Start building wealth today. TCU baseball wins in the quarterfinals of the Big 12 tournament. They will take on Kansas tonight in the semifinals. The other side of the bracket, Cincinnati and West Virginia. Frogs took down Houston 7-1. Pretty good night all around. Sawyer Stroh-Snyder with a triple early in the ball game. He scores quickly. Team takes a 1-0 lead. They break things open in the second, scoring 4 runs and going up 5-0. And then slowly just kind of maintain that throughout the rest of the ball game. They win 7-1. But the big story from this effort on Thursday, Tommy Lepore, TCU's number 1 starter, their ace, he looked like himself again for the first time in a while. 6 1/3, 2 hits, only 1 walk, struck out 7, I believe. And I don't know if the radar gun was a little hot at the Big 12 tournament, but on TV, even going into the 7th inning, he was still throwing 96, 97 on a consistent basis. He threw 97 pitches tonight. I think they would have let him fight through that 7th inning if it was normal circumstances, but no sense in pushing him more than you have to when you have the regionals coming up and you have the NCAA tournament happening soon. They need Tommy Lepore to be that dude if they're going to make a run. And I realize they took on Houston today, who's the 11th seed in the Big 12 Conference. They're not a team that's known for their offense. So that played a factor here. But Tommy had gone up against Utah and struggled. He went up against Cincinnati, which was a team with a good lineup, and struggled as well. He had issues with his command against Arizona. Tonight he looked locked in. There was a funny moment where after they interviewed Kirk Saarloos, they panned in the dugout and got a shot of Tommy chugging an energy drink and then slamming it against his head before running on the field. He just brings so much energy and so much enthusiasm to the table. It's fun to watch. But if he's on and he's your number 1 dude, this is a very, very good team when he's pitching well. Tomorrow, the game just ended. It's just after midnight. I'm not sure what they'll do. Cademan Parker has struggled lately. Do you give him another chance? Do you go to Mason Brassfield? Trevor Baumler, maybe? I mean, we'll see. They have a few options. They swept Kansas earlier this season, and it wasn't really close. But pitching depth is not what it was even a month ago when they played KU. One good thing about this, Tommy went 6 1/3. Luis Rodriguez came in. They got some innings from some other guys. Braden Sloan didn't throw tonight. So he's available to be in a long relief role. I think Luis Rodriguez is available too. He only faced 2 batters. He came on the 7th, cleaned up the situation that Tommy had left on base, and then got back in the dugout. So your bullpen's pretty much at full strength for Friday and Saturday. And if they win, they'll play the winner of Cincinnati and West Virginia. Very Midwest feel to this Big 12 baseball tournament, which is rare. But the big news of the day is Tommy Lepore looking like an ace again. That's a very welcome sight for TCU baseball. As far as hosting goes, I feel like winning that game in itself gives you a really good case. Now, a win against Kansas would be nice because that's a team with a good RPI and a good resume. Whether it's Cincinnati or West Virginia, you're talking about another big win in the Big 12 title game. If you do that, I think you're a lock to host. But honestly, at this point, I'd say it's pretty close, unless I'm just totally missing how the committee rates and looks at the Big 12. They're right there. They did see the Big 12 pitcher of the year tonight in Antoine John. And um, I mean, he was effective, but Noah Franco had a big 2-out, 2-run single in the second to make it 5-0. He also went yard to make it 6-0. They made him work. They did their job. And the big key was they had a 5-0 lead, or excuse me, they had a 1-0 lead when he came in, but they had the bases loaded with nobody out. They're able to tack on a few runs there and really break that thing open. But they jumped on Houston early, allowed Tommy to work with not a ton of pressure, and also went up against a really good long relief pitcher while having the lead. So they weren't having to worry about, okay, can we scratch out 2 or 3 runs here to come back and win this ball game? It was just about maintaining the lead that they already had. So I'm intrigued in watching how Kirk kind of manages his bullpen over the next couple of days. I really think you can throw the kitchen sink out there because at worst, I mean, you're playing a game late Saturday night, and then you've got 6 days to rest, right? So it's not a huge situation where you have a quick turnaround after a long grueling Big 12 tournament. It's basically a normal weekend, 3 games, and if you can win those, then I feel like you're a lock to host at Lupton, which would be big for a young team. Sometimes I forget just how young this team is. When they did the in-game interview with Kirk, he was like, look, we got a lot of freshmen and sophomores out here. So the flashes of greatness that you're seeing, I think you can take an optimistic view with that and say, you know what? There's a ton of growth that can happen here in the next few seasons to build on the talent that's already in the building. I mean, Franco and Strohsnyder are just incredible players. But you've also got some young pitching arms that have been really good for you down the stretch. There's a lot to like about this TCU team, even if they don't reach like their full potential this upcoming season. There's more down the road that can happen that can really take this team to a new place. But TCU and Kansas tonight, 7:00, chance to go to the Big 12 title game. And if they can win it all, it'll be 5 titles in 12 years at the Big 12 tournament. That's a really impressive job by Jim Schlossnagle and Kirk Saarloos over the past decade plus. When we come back, we'll get some of your thoughts. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. What was your favorite part of the TCU Sports Week? Let me know in the YouTube comments. It ended in a loss, but I really enjoyed going to see the men's tennis team compete in the national title match. Not the result I wanted, but it was cool to be there in person. It was a fun environment. And I mean, in true TCU tennis fashion, like they fought and made that a match. There was a point there where it looked like there was a path to victory, even with all the adversity that they were facing. And again, it made me more excited for next year. I also loved just tournament baseball is awesome, man. It's kind of underrated. We always talk about the NCAA tournament and conference tournaments comes basketball, but turning on a game at 9 a.m. between 2 teams is a lot of fun. It was just cool to see the Big 12 tournament in action this week. And I'm bummed that it's moving from Globe Life just because it's going to be a further trip for TCU fans, most TCU fans. But you also watch those games, and I mean, the home runs tonight and really all day, there's just nobody in those outfield seats. I mean, it's such a big place. It's tough to command that type of attention and those types of ticket sales for the Big 12 tournament. But it's super convenient having it in the DFW area, and I'm sure the coaching staff and the program are like, yes, let's keep it here as long as possible, especially if TCU ends up hosting next week. They can just, get right back down to where they need to be. On yesterday's show, I talked about John Denman being a factor in the running back room and just the team in general. Big Easy says, I'm cautiously optimistic. We'll know in about 3 months. Yes, we will. I mean, we'll find out quickly here what this team is going to be. And what I like about the non-conference schedule, even though it's difficult, there's going to be tough games. I love that we're going to find out really quickly who this team is. You play UNC right away and Bill Belichick. You get SMU a couple weeks later. I mean, ACU sandwiched in between those games, but you're going to get a feel for how good your team is. How physical is your team? Have you improved in those areas? Can you run the ball? Are you better at stopping the run? And for a veteran group like this, I think it's good. You don't need to stack up. I mean, you want to stack up wins early in the season, but you don't need to schedule games that are just like, hey, let's win 60-10 and feel good about ourselves and put some things on film and kind of figure out what we run well, what concepts, what formations suit us best. That's not where this team is at. They're in a place where they're going to be competing for a Big 12 title. Those are high expectations, yes, but I don't think they're unfair. The league is really good. It's a tough schedule, all the things. But they've been building towards this now for a few years. They know what's at stake. They know what's going on. And so there's no reason to be afraid of the challenge, right? And you've got a quarterback in Josh Hoover who did great things without any semblance of a run game or a balanced offense last year. If you can find some of those balancing factors and play more complementary football, then I think you could have a really, really good football team this upcoming season. But I'm also cautiously optimistic. I think defensively, with Andy Avalos and with a lot of this group coming back, they should be set up for success. I don't believe there's going to be a lot of thinking on the defensive side of the ball early, and I mean that in a good way. Like instinctually, they're going to understand the concepts, understand the plays, know what they're being asked to do, and they're not going to have to constantly process like, okay, if this player does this, what should I do? It's just going to be more second nature, which is good for getting downhill and making plays. But as far as John Denman goes, there's an opportunity for him to make some noise in his freshman year. I mean, this running back room is wide open. They decided once again to kind of go with the running back by committee approach. I think early in the season, these first few games of non-conference, you're going to see a lot of different guys get carries. I feel like Jeremy Payne and Nate Palmer, obviously, but then also Trent Battle will get some chances. I think we'll see something from Kavorian Barnes, whether it's in more specific scenarios like your short yardage stuff, or if it's in, 2nd and 10 on a drive and you give him a drive or two to just see what he can do. But there will be opportunities for these running backs to make things happen. And for Denman, I mean, it's kind of a perfect situation to walk into because if you can make plays and get downhill and get tough yards, then there'll be a spot for you in this running game because they desperately need something to sort of spark that. And it goes hand in hand with your offensive line. Your O-line has to be better. They have to be more physical. They need to take a step forward too. But I've been guilty of this more than anybody. I think I get so laser focused on the trenches that sometimes I can miss. Like your running backs can help your O-line too. Like it's not a one-way relationship in that regard. But exciting things on the forefront for TCU football. I mean, we are nearing the start of an exciting season where we'll get a much better picture of, I think, who Sonny Dykes is too. We saw towards the end of the year, okay, you're able to rebound, you're able to keep everybody together, get guys moving in the same direction. Now, how do you build on that? Now that your backs aren't against the wall like they were mid-season, what do you find to motivate this team? How do you get them into gear so that it's not like last year where through the first 6 games, there was just so much uncertainty of rolling the dice each week, which TCU team you were going to get. And that had a huge factor in some of those early season losses. There has to be more consistency. You've got a veteran group. You've got a coaching staff that's in year 4 essentially together. Like everybody knows each other. There's not a lot of mystery around TCU football at this point. Thank you for rocking with us this week. We'll be back on Monday. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel or your favorite podcast platform.